So human beings, even spiritual human beings, they think, wow, we're not just humans, we're spiritual beings. And we have chakras. Isn't that cool? Little lights, spinning vortexes, that on strategic areas of our body. 7 major vortexes or chakras, and then some minor chakras, such as on our hands. And then, even minor to that. And acupuncture points are like minor chakras. But they're still little vortexes, and that's why their needles are put there, because they absorb the stimulation or sedation of the needles into the system that can affect the system, or the meridians. But we're not just cool, complex, wondrous, colorful, energy systems and beings with these energy systems. Those chakras represent your, mine, our different states of consciousness. So you don't just say, oh, somebody told me my root chakra is shut down, or my heart chakra is shut down. That's not the way this works. You don't just have a root chakra, you have a root chakra state of consciousness. And you have a heart consciousness. And you have a third eye consciousness, and so on. So it's not just the chakra that is healthy or unhealthy. It's our state of consciousness. So when I do readings with people, I do readings whether it's on the phone or whether it's in person. And if you live in Florida, I'll be doing them there in case you're interested. I know a lot of people have already been signing up, but I'm sure there's still room in all the days that I'm there. But one of the things I do, is I can see pretty quickly, clairvoyantly, what's going on with a person. But I don't just say, oh my, your heart chakra is shut down. Let me just put my hands here and balance it, and you're all good to go. I like to talk about why, because even if I could balance it, it'll just spin out of control again. It'll just go off kilter again. Seconds later, minutes later, maybe days later. We need to know why. So in my sessions, one of the things I do is readings and healing and counseling and all that. But one of the things is if I'm talking to you about your chakras, it's this one seems a bit shut down. This one's dominant. Why is this up? Why is this down? Let's look at that. If this is dominant, that could be great because of A, B, and C, but it could be detrimental in X, Y, and Z. But if something's shut down, why is that? So I like to look at the deeper meanings to things, all things obviously, but that's my particular interest. Bring things together, tie things together. So, point is, we all have these chakras. So now imagine, just go with me for a second. Imagine you're a human being, you have a spiritual energy system, and that includes chakras. But the chakras come from your states of consciousness. If I'm you and any of us, I then have 7 primary states of consciousness, chakras. And it's mirrored, reflected in my chakras. The upper 3 are really, they work together. Those are the Trinity of God in me, because the kingdom of heaven is within you. So the upper 3 chakras are connected. So really, I have 4 in the torso and 1 combined set of 3 up above. Notice 4 fingers and a thumb. So it's the same as 4 limbs and a head. We have 4 fingers that are similar, 4 limbs that are similar, but the thumb is slightly different. The head's different as a limb, because the upper 3 chakras are different. They are unique. But you really are not to be encouraged, like some New Agers, to just get your crown chakra opened and neglect the rest. As I've said a lot lately, it's about balance. We are supposed to be fully alive. So in the course that I'm doing, and this isn't a sales pitch for the course, I'm just reflecting to that. In the course, and in the book I wrote called The 7 Initiations on the Spiritual Path, I explained the qualities of each chakra. So let's say it differently. There are different qualities with each chakra. Not only do I have a root and a navel chakra and a solar plexus chakra and so on, each one of those has sub-facets, like spokes to a wheel. So if my heart chakra is shut down a bit or a lot, whichever it is, that's not just a little kind of airy-fairy comment. If my heart chakra is shut down, I then am shutting down its attributes, spokes that I said. And that is humanitarianism, love, forgiveness, a sense of, connection. I mean, all that the heart represents. So And also a lot of the divine feminine is related to the heart. So we have to look at that and say, those are the areas suffering, not just my heart chakra shut down. I mean, go and hang out with your friends, wherever you often hang out, just standard lay people, and say, hey, I went to see a healer today. You did? You mean a doctor? No, a healer. Said my heart chakra was shut down. See what kind of response you get. They're going to laugh. Some might get intrigued, but they're usually going to laugh. And they don't even know what it means. But what's really sad is often we don't. We just go, oh yeah, I was told my heart chakra shut down. Think of the deep importance. What if your root chakra is shut down? That is your will to live. That is finances, like our material life, the root chakra, material life, sexuality, and so on. So if it's shut down, I might tend towards depression, lacking a sense of purpose. Now, if you lack a sense of purpose and feel sometimes a lack of will to live, or have issues with health, vitality, sexuality, etc., any number of those, and not maybe one minor issue in one minor area, but if a number of those things I named are maybe familiar to you, that could be all found in one problem: root chakra shut down. If we can look and talk about why it shut down and reverse that issue, those other areas could clear up. It's kind of like dealing with a more holistic approach. Find the cause and the symptoms disappear. So again, the chakras. So let's just understand that there are 7, but really we'll reduce the upper 3 to 1. So 5 now. Let's just say 5 for a second. Those 5 chakras represent my physical, emotional, intellectual, intuitive, and my spiritual self. Okay? Now you might say, well, I do yoga and I'm kind of spiritual, so I'm good to go. No, it doesn't work that way. What about your mind, your intellect? What about your emotions? The emotions, inner child work, family of origin work, desire, relationships, other things related to that chakra. What about the mind chakra? Focus, willpower, you see, knowledge, rational thinking, learning. That's the mind. Some of these, some of the New Agers, they shun spiritual people. They shun the mind. No, get out of your head, man. Get out of your mind. Just get into your heart. No. Everything fully alive. If you're always floating about in your upper couple of chakras, including maybe your heart, oh my God. First of all, I don't want you to drive me anywhere, because we'll never get there. Like, you'll always take wrong turns. You're going to be spaced out all the time. Can't tell you how many, spiritual folks, poor things, they pick me up at an airport and try to get me somewhere, and they end up just being in the energy of, being with me or whatever. They're just energetically, they get frazzled sometimes, maybe just nervous or whatever, but we always end up somewhere else. So it's funny yet not. But if your upper centers are working, I mean, seriously, you have a stake to claim. You can, a stake a claim and say, wow, do an aura photo. Look at me, purple aura. I think it's great. But do you understand that if your root chakra is not as powerfully active, that it means you'll have a low immunity? Great, purple aura, but you're sick. Or you tend towards low immunity, can get sick easily. Or what if it's not sickness? What if your higher chakras are great, lower chakras are weak? The lower chakras being weak can make you susceptible to other people's crap. It could make you susceptible to codependence or people tapping into your energy. Now, how many spiritual people have you heard say, oh, people drain me because I'm so spiritual and sensitive? Well, get in your freaking body. Like, show up. So, I mean, forget the purple aura. Get grounded. Show up here. So that's what that concept of spiritual warrior means. Balance. Spiritual warrior. The king, warrior, magician, and lover. All 4 archetypes, or the female equivalent. Balanced. A goddess. A goddess who knows how to make love, but also she knows how to get things accomplished. She knows how to get from one point to another. She's got great bookkeeping skills, or at least knows how to hire people that are great at it. And she's got good financial means around her. Even if it's minor levels of fortune, she knows at least she's going in the good direction of healthy finances. She doesn't say, oh, money's of the material world. She recognizes, I am of the material world. I'm here. So show up. the spiritual person, I'm predicting this. The world will learn the easy way or the hard way, that the old way of being, old paradigms, real dense kind of people, that wasn't our destiny. We shifted, the pendulum swings, and we get all this since the 80s. A lot of spirituality and New Age thinking and all that kind of happened. But it really was ungrounded. It wasn't integrated enough. So people were talking, wearing purple and talking crystals and whatever, but they realized, geez, we have all that, but we're missing just some basics, some necessities. So we got all cosmic, but we didn't do well financially. And when people did do well financially, some of them, they were ostracized by others as being materialistic. I don't go either way. I maintain my center to the best of my ability. There's always somebody who's going to bitch about if your book does too well, if you write a book or paint a painting and it sells well, people are going to say you're materialistic. That's because they're broke. It's not usually wealthy people that are complaining about that. It's the people that are broke, which means they're jealous and they're projecting, generally speaking. Then there's people who, on the opposite extreme, they're dealing with financial problems all the time, not prospering. Neither of those is healthy. It's a matter of, if you are prosperous, do you also still give? Do you know what it's like to live simply? Do you need to accumulate, or do you know how to be practical and take care of other people? I myself, the more I accomplish every day or every year, some days, some years more than others, but the more I accomplish, the more I have, the more I tend to give away. I think that that's right to do. I'm not telling you to do that, but I do believe it's the right thing. I think it's healthy. I think it keeps us from swinging to either extreme of the pendulum. I don't want to hoard and accumulate, whether it's junk or money, whether it's nice stuff or junky stuff. I'm not interested in accumulating. And yet, it depends, whatever the topic, I find it's best to be balanced. So what I do is balanced chakras. I really believe in that. If I sense something going off a little bit, something's not really balanced, because we should know thyself, we should kind of have the means, and that's what this class is going to get into as well, knowing how to discover where you are, which chakras are high and low. Somebody says to me, my digestion is really off. That may be your digestion. Can also be one of your centers related to digestion is off and doesn't have the adequate energy to feed that region of the body. But then it also means the other attributes. If it were, for example, your solar plexus chakra, that could be about focus and willpower and so on. So when I see areas that are a bit weak, I take it as a sign to do something about it, rather than just kind of stalling, or rather than saying I'm just kind of a victim of this and I can't do anything about it. Masters, they step up. Masters have balanced chakras. Masters have each chakra functioning really well, because I don't want my centers just to kind of get by. I want all aspects of my consciousness to be thriving. I don't want to shame emotions and rave intellect over emotions, nor do I want to do it the other way around. I don't want my heart to be really active and my root to be low, nor the other way around. Fully alive. I mean, it just makes so much sense to me. So that's going to be some of what I'm doing in the upcoming course, if you're interested, is learning to see what this is about and learning to find where you are and then how to correct these kinds of things and raise the bar on each center. Now, keeping this in an individual context, meaning standing alone for tonight, I want to add this. Without just saying that it's in the course, I want to add this here. Imagine this. Our chakras are all to be balanced. I said that already, but they're all to be balanced. In one respect, one is not better than another. So remember this. One is not better than another. Don't let others tell you that. All fully alive. Here I am. Boom. All my centers glowing and my aura nice and clean and clear. Everything's just beautiful. And that's how I'd want my organs to work. Any time somebody says to you, no, your crown, your third eye, or your heart chakra, one of the upper chakras, is supposed to be really, really active and let the others go. Tell them, just say this to them. Say, is that what you do with your organs? Just curious. Do you have one gland that works and the others are dead? Do you have one organ that works and the others are all dead? Like stomach's doing fine, but everything else is dead. Ask them if that makes any sense, because there's no way they could say yes. And this is just the way to use common sense to help wake people up from silliness. All right? So next, in one regard, they're all equal. But here's the second angle of that. One angle, they're all equal, but there's another angle, which is symbolically, our chakras describe or depict like a map where we are in our spiritual growth. Meaning, if a person describes their life and says, here's what's happening in my life, A, B, C, and D, I can tell you immediately which chakra it represents, because our soul is trying to get us to be balanced in all our centers. Why? Because it's not just balancing our chakras. Our soul wants us to be balanced in all our centers because it represents balanced states of consciousness. Our soul wants, our higher self wants us to be masters and be balanced in all areas. Period. Now, to get us there, the soul says, I'm going to need to help you turn up the volume on this one. Your navel chakra is a little low. It's a 2 on a 10 scale. We need to bring it up to at least a 5. So here's what I'm going to do to help you do that. And whatever it does, it's going to get you there the easy way or the hard way. But the soul is intent on getting us to wake up. Our soul has no intention, as the ego does, to keep us asleep. The soul's like, no. I'm going to wake you up. Today or tomorrow, the easy way or the hard way, you get to choose that. You choose when and how painful or non-painful you'd like this to be. But I'm going to get you there. We're going. The soul says, I'm going to align with the spirit, the divine that is, but the human is weak. So the soul is saying, hey, human, let's get it together, man. So the soul is encouraging us to wake up. And it says, all right, look, one center or another has been weak. Now we're going to send you some little hints to raise the volume, raise the quality of that part of yourself. Get more into your emotions and understand them. Fine-tune your mind, your intellect, and understand it. Open your heart and understand it. Wake up the root chakra and understand it. That's what it's doing. So it's saying, let's go, man. And it says, I'm going to send you hints and some ideas on how to do that. Hey, a good workshop's coming up. Root chakra is low. You find a little card on your windshield about a drumming ceremony coming up, because drumming is kind of good for the root chakra to wake up. When I say wake up, I'm not talking about sending it in any particular direction. I'm just talking about, it's really about healing our perceptions of physicality, the root chakra. So as we heal, then the chakra awakens. So you hear about people like the Stokeses. They live in your area in Florida. If you're watching from Florida, these folks are amazing shamanic type people that do some great ceremony that could be very good for the heart, and for the root. Native American work, in other words, if your emotional center, is shut down, and there's symptoms of that, I would say, the soul will say, why don't we consider some couples counseling? Or some individual counseling. Why don't we do some family of origin work? Hey, it's time to do some inner child work. I'm saying the soul will send you some ideas, some guidance. If you don't listen, then it's going to have to raise the flame a bit and get this happening a bit more intensely. I see you're not listening to my whispers. Let me shout. So now the root chakra is going to say, well, look, you were ignoring your root chakra. We sent you some ideas to go here and try this and try that. And you're not doing any of it, to do some yoga or whatever it is. No, that's not going to work, because the soul's job is to get you to become more spiritualized, but you're not doing it. So we're going to have to come up with something else. So it's going to say, I'll tell you what, we're going to do this and that and the other. It's going to do things more intense. If you ignored doing inner child work and emotional work, the emotional chakra, it might break up a relationship of yours because the two of you wouldn't do couples counseling. It might make you have to deal with feelings of loss because you won't go heal them with a counselor. The things you don't heal, you will end up feeling. The things you don't work out through healing, you will end up feeling. And it's all good. All roads lead home, but we get to decide. You can have a more efficient, effective, not just pain-free, but bliss, in embodied kind of experience, which is, yes, more pain-free. So however you're going to get there, we're going to get there. We get to choose, but we got to go. So what I was leading to is the soul is always checking in. And when we actually go through cycles, and the cycles are going to be, well, listen, so far in your life, let's say you're 50, so far in your life, you've worked on these 2 or 3 chakras. It's time that we now come back to this one and work on that a bit. That's what's happening to you and me and everybody. We all have these refining process, working on our centers, working on our states of consciousness. Remember, the centers are just our states of consciousness. So the soul is just trying to wake us up and get us all balanced so that we're fully alive. What is weak in your life? And so one thing I intend to ask students in these courses are, when you look at yourself, if you knew all the sub-levels, the symbolism of each chakra, but let's say physical, emotional, intellectual, intuitive, and spiritual, which one, if you know all the pieces to each one of those, which they represent a school, which one have you been doing the last couple of years? Have you been working on the mental chakra, the heart chakra? Learn to figure out where you've been. But then ask yourself, where are you now? You're not just anything. You're not just happen to be doing this and that. You're not. If you have been going through a lot of physical stuff, not just negatives, positives too, physical, like starting yoga, starting to get on a better diet, or the negatives, lots of aches and pains in the body. If it's physical related, financial, health, immunity, whatever, and let's say that's been happening lately, you think you're dealing with A, B, and C. And what I'm saying is you are actually being initiated in your root chakra. Your soul is trying to get you to pay attention to that, your physical self, your physical consciousness, not just your body, your whole physical material consciousness. And your job is to get the hint and get on the ball. Get on ball. Get on the ball. You move. Ride the wave. Like, let's do it. Be a master. Don't let this knock you over. Don't let this time of testing, plow you over. And then you find yourself going, what happened? Because then the timing of the test will pass. The cycle will pass. You will have failed, to some degree, your tests, and now just have to do it again later. And you can't decide. You can't go 3 months later, gee, let me go back and fix all that. You can fix some of it, but you can't make the cycle come back. It will still return for you later, looking for you. So if we can do this, which we can, but if we learn to be able to be responsible enough to say, what is going on for me? We can actually do this. Not only do I know where I've been in my most recent tests in the past, I actually also know where I'm at now. But also what's cool, I know where I'm going. I can sense it. I'm starting to hear and feel synchronicities about certain things. And whatever those things are, you look at them and you start realizing they add up. If they start to describe one chakra or another, then you'll know that that's what's happening. When you start to have the courage to not just talk spirituality, metaphysics, but you have the courage to put a name called Christ consciousness to it, when you go, God, I'm really starting to get into Christ consciousness, the divine feminine, but Christ related, not just like a feminist divine feminine. I mean spiritual divine feminine, Christ consciousness, connection with the divine. When you start having a lot of that come to you, books you want to read related to Christ consciousness, you happen to look on the internet related to that, you happen to end up finding a guy like Michael Mirdad who teaches a lot on that. These are coincidences or they're not. You decide. And whatever you decide, if you don't decide that they're real, if you think that they're just coincidences, you decided that. That doesn't mean you're accurate, but you made that decision to make small something that's big coming your way. So if you start getting turned on to these things related to Christ consciousness, even various books. I just happened to pick up the Aquarian Gospel. Oh, somebody told me about the Essene Gospel of Peace. Oh, somebody turned me on to the White Eagle material. Maybe even Yogananda, because he was actually big on Christ consciousness. If these things are coming your way, they can just be coincidences, right? Or maybe you are actually entering the 5th chakra initiations of Christ consciousness. So I've taught some online courses this year, and the one I'm just starting now is going to be on this topic, the centers, the chakras, and so on. But even if you don't take the course, you can get the book, but even if you don't do that, please remember, just standalone topic here, please remember what I'm describing. You don't have to get the book, you don't have to take the course, but remember what I'm describing. Things are not happening by chance. And the things you go through in your life, if you look at them and start describing, like when you go to a doctor and you say, "Doctor, I've been having these weird things going on." Well, what are they? Because it depends. I mean, are you describing a pain in a toe or what? You got to start somewhere. Well, I don't know, my throat's kind of scratchy and I feel almost a little dizzy and I've been having a stuffy nose lately. You're kind of going in a direction here, aren't you? And it's probably not gout in your big toe. It's describing something. So a good doctor is going to be able to go, "Oh, well, that sounds like it's possibly a certain kind of virus," right? It's the same in life. When you describe, you say you meet with a friend. "Hey, how's it going? How you been?" "Oh, good, let's get us an espresso," or whatever these people drink in those places. I don't even actually know what's in an espresso, and I don't want to know, but that's what people go out for. So let's say people go out and get an espresso. Is that the same as cappuccino? It is? No. It's, okay, I don't know what that answer was, but whatever it is, it's a drink. And you're sitting with a friend having this, and you say, "So, what have you been doing lately?" "Oh, man, a lot of things have been going on. I think I'm going to go back to school, back to college. And I've been looking at my finances and revamping that, and I'm looking at taking time off work to go back to college." You're thinking you're talking about things and events. What you just told me was your soul has brought you to the classroom of the mental chakra. The classroom of it's all purposeful. You are being initiated in one particular center. Now you can go, "Oh, gee, I wish it was the heart." Just stop. Go to the one that you're in. Get in there, work it as thoroughly, efficiently, beautifully, lovingly as possible. Graduate with the highest score, the highest marks possible in that particular chakra so that you can, get the thing turned on and create better balance in your life, and B, move on to other lessons, maybe higher lessons. So if the person's saying, "I've actually been going through a strange thing in my life. I've never had my life toppled so much. It seems like everything is going wrong." Not everything like 2 or 3 things. Everything like 6, 7 categories of life. "Oh my God, I just don't even know what this is about." I do. I will tell you. That's the heart chakra initiation. It's called the dark night of the soul. There's names, there's purpose to these things. And I would love to see more human beings get it and wake up and really start to understand there's rhyme and reason to this. Whether you're talking about Moses and all the things he went through a dark night of the soul. Jesus went through a dark night of the soul. Anne Frank went through a dark night of the soul. The Auschwitz prisoner. You, me, we all go through the dark night of the soul. It's challenging periods of our life. Whether we live through them, die through them, we still will go through them. They cycle around. It's what you do, how you handle it when you're in it, that matters. It doesn't matter whether you live or die. It's the quality of what you do when you're in it. These tests. We're still going to deal with human stuff coming our way. But what are you doing? How are you handling your tests? So we raise the level of spirit in guiding us through these tests. Trying to do them alone, it's not advisable. But it's also going to just be a much harder path or test that you go through. Do all things with God, man. God, be with me. Be with me while I go through this test here, this test here, this test here, whatever it is. God, be with me in my challenges. Be careful. Humans say, God, wherever you are up there somewhere, God, please take away my problems. Masters say, God is with me through these problems. God is with me while I go through these problems. Affirm and call upon God to be with you while you go through, rather than to take you away from them. If you're feeling lonely, God, be with me while I'm lonely and help me feel light. Let's shine the light. Let's light this up, this room that I am. But we start to realize, it's not about begging for things going our way, but to become masters through them. And that's what the tests are for. They're to help us graduate to higher levels of consciousness. But when you learn to understand that everything's connected, and you learn to realize that the body is a symbol of everything else, that means now everything you study and everything you do in your life is actually only describing that your soul has got you in one center or another. You're never actually doing anything out there. Oh, I just had a baby. Great. And that's also a physical initiation and combined with a heart initiation. It's hard to have a baby and not have your heart open to some degree or another. It does happen for some people, unfortunately, but the average person, the heart opens a bit more, right? So you just had a baby. That's not just what happened. On a soul level, you were activating your root chakra, meaning some of the physicality and the initiation of going through the pain, just like the old, it's almost like going through a Native American Sundance ritual. You're going through some major testing. And if all you do is wah the whole process, you lost something. But if you can recognize, God be with me, let's go. And go for it and just do it and do it well. Spiritual warrior, man, and have the baby. And but also spiritual warrior and go through the dark night of the soul. So the last thing I'm sharing on this is everything then starts to become seen from a different light when you realize I am that I am. Everything I see is part of me. I'm not a victim. Everything's reflecting myself, my consciousness. And even if I'm going through events that, that are a struggle, they're reflecting parts of my inner growth. When I go through beautiful things, they're gifts reflecting that I've done well, you see. So come up with any story. Come up with the story of Pinocchio, and I'll tell you how it relates to the chakras. Tell me, Jesus, once upon a time, they say, when the Last Supper, and they went and convened in an upper room. What do you think that symbolizes? People, come on, think about it. Jesus and his apostles convened in an upper room where they talked and sang together and cried together, and he said, bid farewell to his friends. What do you think the upper room is? Right up here. The upper chakras, it's symbolic. When Jesus, using him as a metaphor for a moment, when Jesus is crucified and put in a tomb for 3 days, he's going down in the lower centers. The Catholics will say he descended into hell. That means he went within himself and went to the lowest possible parts of human consciousness, personally and collectively, and brought light to those areas. And then he ascended, resurrected back to life, and then ascended. Kind of like saying he descended into the lower three chakras, for 3 days into the tomb. Then he comes back to life, which is the heart chakra, symbolically. And when he comes back to life after a certain number of days, he then is said to ascend. That means he goes into the upper three chakras. You see? You tell me the story of Moses, tell me the story of anybody, anything, and I can tell you what's really happening. It's a map. The body is a map. So, and even A Course in Miracles will explain to us that even though the body, the life and all that's considered an illusion, that in the illusion, this is still used as a communication device. It's a map. So we start to understand what life is about. Well, I could talk to you about Lemuria and Atlantis and relate those to chakras, ancient civilizations. Tell me a story of mythology, the Arthurian knights, and I can tell you which knight, which person, character represents which part of which chakra. Everything is related to us right here. And if we continue to just hear stories, read stories, and think it's about something outside, we're really, a little educated, I guess, but it's not as deep as it could be. We can take a moment to go, what does that really mean in me? Oh, I just saw this movie and it was so sad. Why? Go here and find out. that was a deeply emotional movie. No, it was a deeply emotional movie, but it was also a deeply emotional chakra experience. I was doing some house cleaning on that emotional center when I was watching that movie. I'm not trying to sound too woo-woo or cosmic, but that's what's happening. Not just per event, but for phases in our life. So do what you can with the bit that I was able to share in these few minutes here. Do what you can to start to take an assessment of your life and see profoundly. If you're not a person, but you're an actual story, a mythology. Once upon a time, there was a whoever you are. And what is their story? Oh, they generally just kind of got by and had a few relationships that were kind of horrible. Some good moments and bad moments. Their children, they had children eventually who grew up and moved away, and that made them sad. And they didn't make it through college because they got sidetracked with getting married. And is that it? What's the symbolic meaning of your story? That would be a story of a person who got derailed, a person who had a mission, had a purpose, and got derailed. Is that how you want to end the story? Not a problem if you do. I can only promise you this: you'll be back to do it again. Usually when you come back to do things you've missed the first time, they're usually more intensified, by the way. It's not like you can come back and go, I'll just go for a lighter version of it. You can't graduate the test on a lighter version of the test. It just intensifies. So it's better just to go for it now. Look at it and say, even if you're 99 years old and you go, well, Michael, thank you for all this, but I think it's a little late for me to try to get back and get all my tests redone. Never too late, but don't delay. It's a paradox. It's never too late, but don't delay. Delay could just intensify it, but wherever you are, that's where you are, so start there. All parts of my being. If you recognize, if you don't know all the subtopics of each chakra, all the various facets that I talk about in other materials and so forth, if you don't know what those are, just at least generically ask yourself, how am I physically in all areas of physicality, from money to health, etc., vitality, immunity, etc. How am I with emotions and inner child work and family of origin work and so on, codependence, addictions, all that? How am I in the mind? Focus, willpower, knowledge, rational thinking. Do I have a good healthy mind? Emotion, or rather the heart. The intuition level. How am I? Am I creative? Intuitive? Imaginative? How do I do with that? That's how you could assess a little bit of the heart. The upper three chakras combined. How am I spiritually? Not, oh, I'm very spiritual because I wear purple. I mean, really, do you know how to commune with God? Even if it's basic prayer and meditation, do you know how to have humility, surrender to God? And then allow yourself to be filled with guidance. Do you know how to get guidance? And so on. Those are just some examples of those centers. If any of them are weak, you might say I'm pretty good in all of them. Just do your best to assess. And if you had to imagine one of them is weak, I would suggest start working on that one. On another note, if you look at the symptoms or what they are and you could say, God, there's a lot of that going on in my life right now, that is probably going to tell you which one your soul has currently signed you up for. And if I were you, I would get on the ball and really start paying attention to the homework and everything else that the soul is trying to give you to pass really well with flying colors that particular center. I pray this has made sense, because what I'm describing is when we work on these centers, in one regard they're even, but in another regard it's symbolic of our journey into higher consciousness. Even though they're all equally important, symbolically it is a rising in consciousness. I am rising and rising and rising in my initiations, and more getting in touch with the God centers and oneness with God. I don't get oneness with God and ignore the rest, but I am rising in consciousness to become a person awakened in my I am presence, my God self, my Christ self. I awaken this, but I don't hover up here. I awaken it. And the seventh initiation, which I didn't go into because I called 5, 6, and 7 combined, the seventh one is actually about taking all that I've integrated and learned and bringing it back to earth. So you don't go up your crown chakra and blast off and ascend. That's what a lot of cosmic-y kind of people assume. And they end up being all, Kundalini casualties, walking around talking to themselves because they had some blissful Kundalini experience, but they blasted out their crown and they can't get back in and function properly. So what we want instead is to learn, I raise my consciousness. I have a great meditation today. I have an amazing epiphany. I feel like I've ascended and seen God, whatever you call it. Whether it's for one day or for 1 week or for a month-long retreat, it's happening. Your next job is to take that and apply it here. How does it grow corn? Rubber meets the road. Practical. Get in your body. I learned how to see God. Fantastic. How can that make you a better person now? Oh, I'm blissing on oneness. Great. How can that make you a better parent? You see? Get it in here and now. Because if you can't show up and make a difference to the world and the people around you, you're just a bliss bunny. Or some people call it a bliss ninny. Whichever you like. You're just blissed out and you're of no use. And you're not going anywhere. You pass over, you're coming back to earth to have to figure out how to embrace your human self again because you failed and you blasted off, you're like Apollo 99 or whatever, out your body and gone. We need you here. God needs you here. We're all here to connect with God, to become better people, and to bring that better person to the world. That's it. Practicality. Spiritual warrior, spiritual practicality. All right? Hope I don't sound too much like I'm lecturing you because I'm sometimes just getting real excited. Anyway, thanks for listening and many blessings to you. I appreciate you taking time with us on these Friday night spiritual insights with Michael Mirdad.